So me and men, I had to come to grips with that. I had to come to grips with being an insecure fat girl. And I had to come to grips with my sister telling me, ain't no man gonna ever really want you because you fat. I had to come to grips with my father was like, listen, I'm here, but I'm really not. I had to come to grips with those things. So my way of coming to grips with those things was now I'm a boss. I'm independent and I'm empowered. Don't you know I run this? See, I too went to the Oprah Winfrey University of Empowerment. And you don't need a man to make it.
Right.
I signed up.
Right.
And I was at the top of the class till I realized I was going to bed empty. I was going to bed with nothing but stuff. I did not want to be the poor little rich girl who have everything but nothing at all. Don't that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. I did not want to be that, Shannon. So me and men.
That's deep. That's deep. And I think, honestly, a lot of us can identify with that, Black men and Black women, because a main response to trauma is hyper independence. And our whole motto as a Black community is getting it out the mud and getting it on my own. And, you know what I mean? I didn't need no help. And I feel like that's the way a lot of us move. And I feel like it's a response to trauma.
Oh, for sure. All of this, we have to realize is a response to our own personal trauma and generational trauma. Like, you know, I was going to say in the last segment or the last thing we're talking about that I feel like a lot of that is also tied to slavery, right? The hyper independence, the what happens here stays here. Don't say nothing. Don't rock the boat, right? Because back then, if you were to speak the truth or say something or speak up against something that was wronged or how you were wronged, you would not only endanger yourself, you would endanger everybody else, right? And I think we're going to have that conversation more or less when we talk about the actual gatekeeping, right? But we don't have the knowledge on how trauma really does affect you, right? Because it can affect different people different ways, right? But so I wanted to read this. So this is the effects of childhood abuse and how it shows up in adulthood, right? So the first thing that it talks about is emotional reactions. So it said that emotions such as fear, shame, humiliation, guilt, self-blame are common and lead to self-depression and anxiety, right? Those two things, depression and anxiety, run rampant in the Black community. Rampant, right? And again, it's a direct correlation to how we were raised. Number two, symptoms of post-traumatic stress. So survivors may experience, intrusive or reoccurring thoughts of the abuse, as well as nightmares or flashbacks, right? I've seen that firsthand. Number three is distorted self-perception. So survivors often develop a belief that they caused the sexual abuse and they deserved it. These beliefs may result in self-destructive relationships, right? So if you factor all of those things together, you know, that is why when people who have been compromised have problems in their self-relationship. This is what I really wanted to get to. Interpersonal effects. Adult survivors of sexual abuse may be less skilled at self-protection. They are more apt to accept being victimized by others. This tendency to be victimized repeatedly may be the result of general vulnerability in dangerous situations and exploitation by untrustworthy people. Right? So in order to reverse that, then you have to be more vigilant about being self-protective to the point where you even may go overboard, which she said in the first part of that clip the part of that clip before we played it, where she said that because she was exploited and because she was abused as a child, that she always had to have her guard up. And she said, I'm going to end up getting you before you get me, because I've always learned that I don't want to be a victim, and to be control of being a victim, I have to be on the aggressive. I have to be the one that attacks. So we have to understand all these things come into factor. All these things come into play. And the more you understand it, I think the more less judgmental you become when somebody does these things and you're like, okay, there has to be something behind why she's acting the way that she's acting, right? You're not attacking people the way that she's attacking people for no reason. Right. For one, she was the victim, right? Because she was the one that was Tyler Perry did her wrong. Sound like Kevin Hart did her wrong. Like there was bad business all the way around. But now we understand why there is so much venom on the reaction. It's not only that you were wronged, it's also you were wronged, and that reminds me of how I was wronged as a child. That I trusted you to protect me, you did not protect me, and you actually ended up hurting me more instead of protecting me from the people who were trying to hurt me. I trusted you, right? So
especially with Black people, when you're doing business with Black people and you assume that, oh, you know, we look the same, we're in this industry that, you know, we're all, you know, fighting
the same fight.
We all fighting to get ahead in. So I would assume that we will all be on the same page. But again, I feel like trauma plays a part in the way that we do business. I feel like a lot of times people are not doing business correctly, and that we don't want to have those hard conversations. We don't want to have those, you know, those contract negotiations. When it gets down to the nitty gritty, all of a sudden everybody want to get quiet. You know what I mean? And you supposed to just accept what you get. You know, even Candy from Escape, she said the same thing when she was working with Boys to Men, that when it came down and they was finished they had all that fun in the studio recording and everything. And then when she talked about, okay, how we finna do these split sheets to see how they was going to divide how we get paid off these songs, all of a sudden they was, you know,
acting funny.
They was acting funny. Now they're like, how dare you bring that up? Who is you? Like, no, I'm handling my business. And again, Candy has also been a person that people have said is
She's
difficult to work with. Why? Because she about her business. It seems like it's all with the people that's about their business and demanding they worth, and they difficult to work with.
Yeah,
They difficult to take advantage of.
That's what it is, right? So we have to really understand what that looks like as a creative, as an actor, whoever it is. If you are a black person in any space where you are running your own business, you are going to understand what I'm saying. So if the business model, and we have to really look back, right? So when people say that I'm doing that you're doing that is bad business, right? Or you're difficult to work with. Okay. First, we need to take a step back and say, what is the business model? Right? If the business model is the higher ups get all the money, and I'm going to pay everybody else scrap so I can get as much profit as possible, and I'm going to find people that are vulnerable that were not going to ask too many questions. If that is the business model, then the person that just simply asked a question would be considered difficult to work with.
Yeah.
Right? So, for instance, in the music industry, it is very predatorial. I take a kid from the hood. He didn't have money before. I give him an advance. I don't give him much, and he's happy with it, and I end up getting the majority of the money. If that's doing business, that's a predatory, capitalistic, taking advantage of vulnerable people business. But then they'll say, well, that's just the business.
And you did it. You took it.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't know better. Yet. Like,
Right.
even when she was saying, like, she said by the end of the Parkers, when they got down to that last season, they was only getting $55,000 per episode. That's crazy.
Yep. And you had people getting $1 million an episode.
Mind you, they syndicated at this point. You know what I mean? And that's what she was saying. Like, when you come in and you don't have nothing, the little bit that you get, you're grateful for. You don't want to lose it. Because she said, her words, she said, you remember what it's like to not have no gas money.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
But then
when
you learn
better.
But then you learn the game.
Come on.
And then you get more information. And then you understand, how many times have we heard that story?
Yeah.
How many times have we heard, I signed a bad deal. Then when I understood the business of the deal, then I wanted to redo it and they wouldn't let me redo it. We've seen that happen before over and over and over and over and over again when it comes to black people. But again, it is par for the course because we live in a capitalistic society. So what is the business model?
And the gatekeepers are making sure that they're keeping the status quo because they want to keep their seat at the table. So the Kevin Harts, the Oprahs, the Tyler Perrys, the gatekeepers, like when she refused to do the promotion in Cannes for Precious, which she had already did all her contractual obligations, but this was just something that was like a known in the industry that you just do it. Even though you don't get paid, you just do it.
For sure.
When she said no, who did they send? Oprah and Tyler Perry to get her to do it because they're what?
Yeah.
The higher ups in the industry.
And they're the gatekeepers.
They're the gatekeepers. So they're like, hey, go get her in check.
Yeah.
And when she still said no, they blackballed her.
And really, it's, and this is what I was trying to say before, it's really house nigga versus field nigga.
Well...
It is. But you got to look at it from the standpoint of the house nigga too, right? So I don't think it's a I don't think it's malicious. I don't think their intent was. I don't think they're. Just listen to what I'm saying. I don't think their intent is malicious because I think the way that is sold to them is you get on and then you can help your people out. So let me get in the door and let me make sure I have everything good first, and then I can help other people, right? Because Tyler Perry, let's be honest, because we can't paint him out to be this monster. Obviously, he did her wrong. But as far as pay goes, he has paid black actors way more than anybody else has.
Absolutely.
And has given them way more opportunity than anybody else has.
You can't deny that.
Right? So, and I think if you don't play the game to a certain extent, would he be able to do that?
Absolutely. I do agree with that.
But that doesn't mean that he's not wrong. Excuse me. It doesn't mean that, no, I was right. It doesn't mean that he's not wrong for how he did her.
And I think that's the problem that black people face, is that when we get people in these positions, we feel like they are above reproach because they are there. And if we tear them down, or if we say anything negative about them,
then we tear down our opportunities.
Then we tear down our opportunities. But at the end of the day, I don't care what position you in. That don't mean you can't be wrong. You're not always going to be right.
And don't lie. Right? You don't got to lie about it, right? I mean, and it's the same thing with Kevin Hart. We see that Kevin Hart is uplifting and putting a lot of black artists and black actors and doing his own independent films. So we love seeing that.
Yeah, so we like, if you say that, you gonna mess it up. And it's like,
but again, that is very house nigga versus field nigga mentality. Don't tear down a nigga in the house because he got his foot in the door. And if you tear him down, then the scraps he gives us is gonna stop flowing. Right? Even if he's doing some shady business. And the minute you say something, then nigga, you just close the door on all of us, right? And he has the power to now go talk to Massa to put us in check. So if you mess up our relationship, he has the overseeing power to make it seem like we're not doing our job. Yeah. Which is exactly what happened. Tyler Perry spread the rumor that she's difficult to work with, and everybody believed it.
Yeah.
Right?
And she said that. She was like, it is like, slavery back in the day.
It is.
They would make an example out of one slave to
buck breaking.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So everybody else would be like, yeah, I don't want to end up like that.
They want to stay in line. Yeah.
Right.
And we see it all. I mean, we saw it in the NBA with Kyrie Irving. We see it in all the sports, really. If anybody goes outside of the status quo, they get heavily punished.
Yeah.
So that way there is no, I'm going to do the same thing, right?
You don't want nobody to get no ideas, but at the same time, it's like people saying, oh, just let it go or whatever. Monique's career ain't never going to be the same.
No.
We've seen that even though Netflix came back to the table and negotiated with her and she got her special, they said it didn't do that well. Like, she's tarnished for good. And she knows that. I feel like the way that her energy was in the interview, she knows that. But like she said, if I don't say nothing, then the person that's coming behind me going to sit here and go through the same exact thing. So I respect that. But the people telling Monique to just let it go and get over it. If somebody made you lose your job or lose your bag and you couldn't get another job, how long before you let it go? Well,
and people got to realize that when you see people go to litigation, once you litigate against anybody, you're a liability. Nobody else is going to want to work with you because they're going to think that you're going to do the same thing to them. So you have to get as much as you can the first go around, right? So, but also, she also has to take accountability because she says whenever she would run up on anybody in Hollywood, they would be scared and be intimidated. So you have a reputation for that. So are you telling the truth? Yes. And we've had this conversation, but there is a way how you deliver the truth that does have consequences. And if you are bullying or being Debo or trying to intimidate, and I'm not saying that's what she was doing, but that's the perception. The perception is you're a bully. So she's not going to work with you, right? They are going to work with the easiest people that they can work with because actors are already considered difficult to work with already off top.
Because they know there's going to be another person that's thirsty for the spot. Just like when Terrence Howard, they was trying to give him crumbs for that
for the Iron Man.
And Don Cheadle just came into. They're gonna find somebody else.
They're gonna find somebody else, and to the point where like we were complaining about British actors coming in and taking our roles. Well, guess what? Because they're more agreeable, and they've been training for that role their whole life. So if you don't get on board, I will gladly remove you from the picture, pay this guy less, and get the same return.
You're replaceable. That's basically
how
you feel. And it sucks. You know what I'm saying? Because you want Black people to stand together, and but we're very individualistic in a lot of ways when it comes to that. Like,
we were taught that.
If you know that Terrence Howard is getting lowballed or whatever, and instead of, like, I feel like as a Black person, you shouldn't take that role. You should stand behind him and make them have to pay him. You know what I'm saying? But I don't feel like we're going to do that. We're going to get our bag.
See, I think the problem is they just got finished fighting for fair pay all the way across the board. So if I pass up a role, like we're saying, then what does my reputation, how does that precede me within the circles? It's, oh, nope, he didn't want to take it. I wouldn't hire him. Right? And then now you have no work.
Yeah, and that's why I said we look out for self. We say we want to,
but I don't think that's just. I don't think that's just us. I think that's everybody. I think everybody does that.
Well, I think everybody does that, but I feel like we are in a position to where we're lower on the totem pole. Like,
for sure,
if we're trying to make progress, but we constantly stepping over each other and stepping on each other's toes, where are we?
I just think everybody has a difference of opinion on how to make change. I think the Tyler Perrys and I think the Kevin Harts of the world believe that being as successful as possible will bring about change, because then we'll have a seat at the table. Then you have the other people that will say, no, we all need to stand together, strike, boycott, and hit them in their pockets, and then they will change, right? But really, who's willing to make the sacrifice?
Not many, because we all trying to get ahead, and we all trying to get our bag.
And that's the difference between, the civil rights generation and our generation. Civil rights generation, it was like, look, we gonna do what we got to do to make sure that our kids have a better life.
Don't nobody take the bus. Imagine if somebody said that now, like, what?
Yeah.
I ain't taking a bus. I got to walk.
Yeah.
I got to try to carpool with other people.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. That's what, and that's and that's the difference. And that was the dangers of integrating. Integration. That was the dangers of that, because now we. I got my spot. I'm good. And that's what who said that? That's what Vivica A. Fox said. Verbatim. I'm good.
Yeah, about the conversation
about the fair pay.
I'm good. Okay, what about everybody else? If you know for a fact across the board everybody ain't good.
But that is individualism on display, for sure. So, man. But there's a lot of deep-rooted slavery. So when we talk about, slavery's over, still a lot of deep-rooted cultural things that we do. That mindsets, mentalities, all of that. Yeah. And I wish it was different.
I really do.
Right? I mean, we just went through the whole Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, Cat. I mean, it's basically the same conversation.
I mean, from what we know, show business, Hollywood is messy, but we finding out comedy is very messy.
Yeah.
They at the top right now.
For sure.
They at the top of the docket of mess.
Yes.
Is comedy.
And then she's going on tour with Cat Williams, which I saw that coming.
I think people gonna go.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I know everybody be like, oh, she not funny. I've heard people even say Cat Williams ain't funny. I feel like, to each his own, I feel like when people stop liking you, all of a sudden you ain't funny.
Yeah.
She was a queen of comedy. Oh, she never was funny. Okay.
And this may be their last opportunity. Because after this, you've already ruffled enough feathers. And what I did not agree with what she said was there's consequences to a lie. And she didn't agree with, I think somebody told her that there's consequences to. There's always a consequence to telling the truth. Always. Always. And it may not always benefit you. And I think that's why we live in a generation where lying is so prominent. Mm-hmm. I think I read a study where it said
more beneficial.
It said 97% of people lie. 97% of Americans lie. Yeah, because it's more beneficial, for sure. You're protecting yourself. Telling the truth will put you in a situation where you may suffer consequences. You may lose friends. You may lose business deals, all those other things. I know for me, I want to be a person of integrity. So I will always tell the truth. But I've learned in my age that you have to be more careful on how you tell the truth. Because you just blowing people out the water. What is my motive?
Yeah, not just how you tell the truth, but sometimes even
when you tell the truth. Yeah.
It ain't the time. Yeah. It ain't the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm down on my luck and this and that, it's probably not the time to pile on to that. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, with the truth, just because it's the truth. Like, I've said that a lot as an adult. That whole keep it real era, you too old for that. Oh, I keep it real. I keep it real. I don't care.
Yeah, but
No,
but you're using the truth to tear people down.
You gotta have some tact.
Yeah,
with it,
and sometimes
that comes with maturity and age,
and sometimes it doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't need to be said.
Yeah,
Like, you know, and we'll talk about it. Like the whole D.L. Hughley thing. I felt like a lot of the things that she said shouldn't have been said.
Yeah,
Was it true? Or no, I ain't gonna say. Was there some truth to it? Yes, but did it need to be said? No, because you were using it as a hurtful tactic.
and like you said it off air, like as somebody that was molested, for her to bring up his daughter being molested and him not believing her, and
that's nasty to me.
Yeah,
God, that's nasty. If you know how hurtful it was for you to go through what you went through, why would you bring an innocent bystander into your issues with him when all it was over a radio station segment show
that nobody else had heard,
that we never heard?
Nobody heard that segment because he pulled it, but you felt the way about it.
See, but again, that goes back to the trauma. You feel like a victim. You feel like that you have trouble protecting yourself. And I feel like what she does that I feel like is wrong, you bring the public into your issues and you want people to be on board with you. Oh, my babies, oh, my sweet babies. Somebody, this is what he did to me. I need y'all to be on board with me. It's like, I feel like that is directly deep rooted in her trauma, that you need somebody to agree with your grievances. Because why would you, for one, that could have stayed private. It didn't air. He apologized supposedly, but then somehow, I don't even remember, that happened so long, I don't even remember how it even came back up.
When she was on the tour with him and they was headlining the show. She was supposed to be headlining.
And then the emails are going back and forth. See, exactly. and now it's just getting convoluted. I feel like
what happens is that when people feel wronged, they feel like it's open season on how they respond to it. Yeah. And we saw that with the Erica Mena thing, with calling her a monkey. Yep. And a lot of people said, well, when you bring this up, then it's over with. When you do this, and so I see that a lot with people when they get into confrontations of when they know they're in the right or they feel they're in the right, how they respond, they feel like they're justified. I agree. And I don't feel like we had this conversation. I don't feel like it justifies any type of response all the time. No. I don't feel like that. Just because you're right.
No, and again, you got to be accountable, right? So you reap what you sow. Even if you are in the right, that does not give you the right to respond.
I feel like your character should still stay where it's at, no matter
how you feel.
How you feel, if you've been wronged, whatever. Agree. Your character should be your character. Like, I shouldn't, well, you wronged me, now I'm going to talk about your kids.
Well, you know what they say.
Like, well, I don't believe in talking about kids, but ain't
no but. No.
Ain't no
and what I've always been told by my mom and by older women and people that are wiser is, if you want to know somebody's true character, see how they act when they're mad, or when you tell them no. Either one of those two, or when they drunk, right? So, yeah, you be getting the real truth then.
That's what